Today we're going to be working on this 2003 Toyota Tacoma. It belongs to my friend Ryan, and he got it for $0 somehow. I still don't know how he got it for free, but it had 394,000 miles when he got it, and it had been treated decently well. It hadn't been just completely thrashed, but with that many miles on it, any truck or car is going to have some issues, be it big or small, and it's getting to the point where since he's on 35s, it's getting not so enjoyable to drive, especially on the highway. So we've determined that the front end needs basically a rebuild, and you've seen this truck on the channel previously. We put the old man Emu 2.5-inch lift, put new leaf springs in the rear, shocks in the front, and we made way for these all-pro tube bumpers, and then we incorporated a winch in the front so that he could recover, and it's been a great truck. We have all new Moog parts. We have a few other parts that aren't Moog, but I like these because they are greasable. So he spent about $1,000 on Rock Auto for, CVs and all that. We're going to be using MAP gas, a ball joint press, a tie rod end remover, and we're going to start here by lifting up the front of the vehicle on the front cross member. I always like to have 2 points of lift, so we've got a bottle jack under the frame as well. And then I like to keep a third bottle jack handy underneath the control arm. We'll go ahead and zip the 6 lug nuts off and remove the wheel here. These are 35-inch Cooper STT Pros. He bought them new on Steelies and definitely like the tires. But there's the upper ball joint. The CV boots are torn. Sway bar end links are shot. Tie rod ends are shot. So we're going to be replacing all of that. We need to remove this wheel spacer so we can grab access to the entire spindle and remove the axle. So we just remove these 6 nuts, give it a light tap, and then we use our tie rod end tool remover. Make sure to wear glasses. I about took out my eyeball by over tightening this. I was just trying to get the ball joint out of that, so I ended up having to take a torch to it and then a hammer. MAP gas works good. If you got an oxyacetylene torch, that works better, but you have to be careful not to cut through the steel, obviously. So grab a 3-pound engineer hammer or some sort of big hammer, and you can hammer on the spindle, being careful not to, gall anything up. And you'll need, I needed vice grips at least to hold the stud of the ball joint while removing the castle nut, otherwise it just spins. So once you have your spindle free like this and it's just resting on the lower ball joint and the CV, you probably want to do that axle nut first. All right, good morning. So I thought I'd give you kind of a little bird's eye view of what we're doing here. So we've replaced pretty much every suspension component except for the wheel bearings and the hub on this 2003 Tacoma. So if you look in here, we've got Moog upper control arms, and these are going to come with the new bushings here. The previous ones were just, completely done. This has 394,000 miles. We've also done Moog ball joints with greasable fittings. It's got the Zerks on the bottom there. Trying to get all these out is not fun, and I'll show you those on the other side when we get to that. I just wanted to proof of concept, get everything bolted in, make sure it lines up. These are your 2 cam bolts for your lower control arm, and there's little degrees here to set your, your toe and your camber and your caster, or your camber rather. We did Moog tie rod ends because those were a little bit, torn, and pretty much just a new lower ball joint. I don't know what you call this, but yeah, this just bolts in, which is very handy as opposed to having to press out every single one. So you've got 3 technically that when you're doing a rebuild. 1 here upper, 1 lower, and then your tie rod end. So this should help the truck drive a lot better. Ryan's got 35s on it, so you're gonna notice little imperfections in the independent front suspension system complex as a whole when you're driving down the road at 60 miles an hour. So we're trying to mitigate some of that. Another issue we did have is this beauty cap here that covers the CV axle nut. This is just welded on here, not literally welded, but we can't get it off. So we ended up just taking the angle grinder, and we'll probably try and pry that off if we can. He'll remember that this is sharp edges here, but this has ended up being a 35mm nut, which is a weird nut size. So we had to go and grab a specialty large socket set. Got our cotter pins. What we're gonna do is just get all of this bolted in, put our cotter pins and castle nuts in, and then we're going to start on the other side.
We're kind of done with this side.
All right, so we've got the passenger side all finished up here. Again, Moog, pretty much everything with the exception of this upper ball joint. The Moog ball joint unfortunately, the boot was not secured in a way that I like, and it came out of here upon installation, and it failed. So the grease started coming out of it, and I didn't like that. So we just go ahead and took this one out, and this is no good. So we went with the Duralast Gold from AutoZone, which is their highest quality one. I do like this one because it has a Zerk, and the profile of the boot is just a little bit better. There's little clamps around it on both sides, so there's very little chance of that leaking compared to the Moog. So tightened down our cam bolt for our upper control arm and our top hats for our spring, our coil. We had to grab a new piece of hardware for the lower shock mount. Got all of our ABS and brake lines back together, as well as our caliper, our axle nut. Made sure we did all of our cotter pins. This is our new Moog tie rod, lower ball joints, as well as sway bar bushings, and then our Moog end links as well. So we're sitting pretty as far as the new suspension, and it looks really nice and clean too. Ryan's gonna go ahead and take it through the drive-through or the car wash and spray it all down to get all the grease off. You do inner tie rods while you're at this, but we didn't really determine that it needed it. We might in the future, but we're gonna go ahead and finish up the other side. The nice thing again about most of these parts, or all the ones we look for, is that they're greasable. They've got the Zerks there. So new CV as well. I think that was Moog too, right?
No, I think it's a track motive or something.
Track motive. Anyways, Rock Auto. It'll be good. It'll work. It's better than this other one that was leaking. So we're going to go ahead and finish up the other side, which will just be a mirror process, essentially a few different things, and then we're going to go ahead and take her for a spin and see how it goes. So I can't tell the difference because this isn't my truck, but Ryan said that he feels a noticeable difference. He feels like the vibrations that he felt last time are a little bit more on his side. Which would make sense because we haven't finished the other side, but yeah, should be a win. That job was actually not very easy. It was actually pretty difficult, to be honest. You need a lot of special tools. You need a pickle fork. Unless all this stuff's been taken out recently, everything's gonna be rusted and like not welded by electricity, but welded by corrosion to each other. So it's tough to get some of this stuff out. But you know, new rubber bushings are better than old ones, so obviously it's going to feel a little bit better. I'm going to do some highway testing, but yeah, should be good. Always nice to put some new parts on an old truck. So actually only ended up getting one side of the Tacoma finished, and then I actually had to leave out of state. So I have made some big moves in the last few weeks, and I will tell you all about them in the next video. But to put it plainly, I've driven 5,000 miles buying and selling trucks until I found something that I've really liked. And I finally landed on something that I've really liked, and I've finally landed on a place that I've really liked and relocated to again. Anyways, this is all just personal life drama, which I'm sure none of you care about. This is more of a Land Cruiser channel, so I didn't want to drag out this video on the Tacoma, but it is something that needed to be done for my buddy Ryan, and we ended up at least getting one side of it done, so he's going to have somebody do the rest of it for him. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.